So, hello everyone, and welcome to the virtual prospective student day. We are really delighted you all are here, and I hear from the registration that we have representation from 82 different institutions representing 23 or 27 states and 11 countries. That's just awesome. So good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I first want to just give a sort of a rough schedule. We have a welcome to Michigan Biostatistics. We'll give sort of an introduction to our program. Then we'll have student reps talking about life as a Michigan Biostat student. You'll also hear from our faculty and get to know Michigan Biostats faculty. And then we are going to talk about the admission process, the application process, financial aid, and so on. And then from 8:05 to 8:30, we have a Q&A. Please feel free to, put your questions in the chat. We do have some questions that already came in that hopefully we'll be able to sort of answer during this session. I am Moushumi Banerjee. I'm a professor here in the Department of Biostatistics. I joined Michigan in 2003, so I've been here for 22 plus years. My areas of research are predictive modeling, causal inference, machine learning, correlated data, and my substantive areas of research are cancer and pediatric heart disease. I'm also the chair of the Master's Admissions Committee, and I'm joined here by my colleague, Professor Sebastian Zollner. Sebastian, do you want to unmute?
Hi, I'm Sebastian Zollner. I'm a professor also in the Department of Biostatistics. I've been here for 20 years, so not quite as long as Moushumi. My research is primarily in statistical genetics. I'm working sort of on the intersection between population genetics and genetic epidemiology. And I'm the chair of the PhD admissions committee.
So, firstly, what is biostatistics? I mean, you all are here because you have an interest in biostatistics. Biostatistics as a field is the application of statistical methods to biological and health-related data. And the goal is to improve our understanding of health and reduce illness. What do? We sort of develop advanced statistical methods, and these are used to design robust experiments, evaluate the effectiveness of treatments, and contribute to groundbreaking discoveries that enhance health outcomes and prevent diseases. So our field focuses on advancing medical knowledge and shaping the future of public health. Our department has programs, both master's and PhD programs in biostatistics. And the department also houses a new program that was started in fall of 2023 in health data science. Health data science combines statistical principles, computing, and health to improve healthcare and analyze large-scale health data. And the emphasis here is on big data analytics and computing skills. So we kind of run these two programs, biostatistics and health data science, within our department. What do we do? Biostatisticians, we develop statistical designs, methods, and computational tools for the analysis of biomedical data. And our kind of one of the other sort of alongside methodology development, we also apply these designs, these methods and tools to answer questions in medicine, biology, and broadly like public health. So if you are someone who likes math, computing, biology, our field, biostatistics, really is the ideal use of the knowledge of math, computing, and biology. So let's hear from some of our past students and alumni. What do biostatisticians do? Rachel Davis, 2023 Masters Biostat graduate, in her words, biostatistics is a powerful, influential, and meaningful field that can have an incredibly positive impact on the world. Alicia says, I've always been interested in STEM, mostly mathematics, but it wasn't always clear how I could merge my quantitative skills with issues that are dear to my heart. And biostatistics actually is the field where you can merge your quantitative skills with issues or with problems in biology, health, and medicine. Stephen Salerno says interpretation of data advances, role of statisticians will continue to expand, as will the need to make the results of our work interpretable, emphasis on that, and widely accessible to local and global communities. So as you can see that, and then there are also students talk about like how they want to serve their community and how the use of and knowledge of this quantitative skills with biology makes their sort of work as a biostatistician very fulfilling, making somebody's life easier or happier or improving the quality of life. I think perhaps sort of the best, at least my most favorite is, why isn't this progressing? Let's see. Is from Elizabeth Chase, a recent graduate from our PhD program, currently an associate statistician at the RAND Corporation. Biostatisticians contribute vital quantitative expertise to diverse and exciting problems. Using the fundamentals of statistics and applying a cross-disciplinary approach, our faculty, students, and alumni are working on topics like cancer, COVID-19, mental health, environmental health. As you can see, a wide range and a diverse set of topics. So that's sort of the beauty of our field. And if you like math and you want to make a tremendous difference to public health, then biostatistics is the place for you. What do biostatisticians do? There are many career options in academia, industry, government, and sort of research and development sectors. Again, wide range of topics, diversity of work. Some include design and analysis of clinical trials, building predictive models for precision medicine, assess effectiveness of health programs at the population level. So there's a wide range of topics and sectors that biostatisticians work in. I'm going to pass this next to my colleague, Professor Zollner, who will talk about biostatistics at the University of Michigan.
Yeah, so thank you, Musumi. So I think Musumi has given you a great idea about what biostatistics is in general. And honestly, you're going to hear a lot of the same topics because our department is a very typical biostatistics department. Next slide, please. So the basic mission of our department is to understand how we can use data, typically data in health, to actually develop new treatments and to better understand what is going on biologically. Next slide, please. Right. For that purpose, what we are doing is we have all these different types of data. We have big data. We have complicated electronic health records. We have statistics that are from all over a state or even all over a country. We have wearables data. And based on that data, we're combining that with methods, and based on these methods, we can then develop new insights in health of disease. We can try to, for example, use electronic health records to better understand course of disease and potentially improve how patients are treated. We can use, for example, wearables data to understand what people are actually doing in their daily life and how we can potentially modify that to improve how people are living their lives in a healthier way. We can also look at these data and say, look, these are the properties of the data, and they don't really fit with our standard statistical models. So what can we do that our statistical models don't give us wrong answers, but instead adjust our statistical models to come up with missing data or non-independence or any other unfriendly features that the data might have, and that allow us to still draw valid inference from the data that we have. Next slide, please. For all of that, of course, we have underlying reasons why we're trying to do that. Primarily, we are in healthcare and we are at a university because we want to make the world a better place, right? Our approach to doing that is by developing new solutions, new technical solutions that allow us to actually do that. One of the key properties of modern medicine is that this idea of a one-size-fits-all solution doesn't really cut it anymore. So we believe that different groups need different solutions, and our job is to find solutions for as many groups as possible. And obviously, we want those solutions to actually do something, right? We want to develop solutions that are used all over the country or all over the world and improve healthcare for as many people as it possibly can. Next slide, please. In all of that, we're actually doing quite well. So here you see some rankings. And of course, all of these rankings can always be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. So for example, right now, we are the third best biostatistics department in the United States. Over the last 20 years that I've been here, we've been best biostatistics department in the United States. We've also been the fourth and fifth best department in the United States. We've never fallen below five. And honestly, whether we're third or first just depends a little bit. Do they count grants a little bit more? Do they count papers a little bit more, right? This is always a high-dimensional statistic that gets projected onto a single ranking. And as you all know, that only works so well, right? But we are one of the best ones. I think that is broadly accepted. We're very good in generating funds, which is a good measure that we're doing important work. We are also considered one of the best places for students to live. Ann Arbor is ranked here number 2 as the best college town in the United States. And generally, if you look at all the rankings of livable college town, livable small places, livable anything, Ann Arbor always pops up on these lists. Again, depending on what you weight, ranked first, ranked 8th, ranked 10th. But you can, from all of these rankings, take it's a good place. Whether it's the best or not will depend on your own priorities. Next slide, please. Okay, here to give you a little bit more of an idea here what our department is like. Our department is quite big. We have almost 50 faculty and over 130 staff members. Of those 130, the vast majority are scientific staff. So they work on specific research projects on different research areas and work in this area. We also have a large student body. We have a total of roughly 250 residential students, which are more or less half and half between master students and PhD students, with the health data science program making up about 30,000. As you've seen on previous slide, we're quite good in getting research money. So this year we're spending almost $40 million for our research. And one of the nice things is the biostatistics department in Michigan has been around for a really long time. And because of that, we have a very, very large alumni pool. And that is useful for you for once, because yes, we've done it in a while. So hopefully we know what we're doing. But also there's a large group of alumni that have been here that you can reach out to. I regularly, for example, when my students graduate, connect them to students who graduated 5 or 7 years ago. And they get to get questions answered. When my students have problems about, we want to go this way with my career, that way with my career, we're trying to find some alumni they can talk to. And that might not be the perfect answer, but it's somebody who's been in the same position and can help you get you some idea about what the possible next step is. Next slide, please. So here you see the large department in actual faces. So on the left, you see the cores that our core faculty. That picture is actually, unfortunately, slightly dated, but that's why it's such a nice, even picture. But as you can see, we have a large group of faculty that is quite diverse, both in research interest and in just in who we are. And the benefit here is, of course, that anybody who comes here, if you will find somebody who will be able to work with you on what you're interested in working in. Next slide, please. And as I said, because we have practically 50 faculty, that means we have strengths in a really, really large area. And here you have sort of a list of all the statistical methods and all the biomedical applications that our faculty are working on. A list like that, particularly on biomedical applications, if you think a little bit about the life of a biostatistician, is always going to be incomplete, because one of the really nice, for me, one of the best things about being a biostatistician is that if somebody comes to you with a biomedical question that you've never thought about, but that you can reduce to a statistical question, you can learn something and be in a new field. And I promise you, there are probably 10 more fields that are not on this list that still people in biostatistics work on. They just didn't make it on the list. At the same time, you can see here that there's pretty much anything that is of interest in analysis of data. There are world-class experts in our department who work in that field. And that can be very nice as a student, because honestly, in our experience, many students who come here think they would know what they want to do. But as they study it for a while, they figure out they're actually excited about something totally different. Now, if you pick a department based on, I want to do clinical trials, and you pick the best clinical trials department in the world, but then halfway through you decide genetics is so much cooler, and you're obviously correct with that assessment. But if that's what you want to do, then in our department you have the benefit, well, then you move from the world-class expert in clinical trials to the world-class experts in genetics, and you will still have all the support that you want to do, even if your research direction has changed massively. And I actually have to admit, I had a PhD student who did the move exactly the wrong way. She did a genetics PhD with me, and in her last year decided she wanted to do clinical trials, and she's now at the FDA. Next slide, please. Yeah. One of the very pleasant things, I think, for anybody, but certainly for faculty in Michigan, for students as well, is that Michigan, while we have like any other university departments and units, there are very, very, very few barriers between the different units. So if you are, say, interested in clinical trials, there is nothing that keeps you to go and talk to people in the School of Pharmacy or in the medical school or anything else. There's very little turf guarding or anything. I have students will just move from one department to the next and talk to the faculty that they want to talk to. And because of that, and biostatistics is, of course, often in the center of this, because anybody who has data would like to have specialists to help them with the analysis of the data, just to make sure they're not, but things don't go sideways somewhere along the way. And so we have a lot of connections with many, many institutes on the department at the university that work on anything from AI to social data to cancer to epidemiology. And with many of these, we have very, very strong connections. Next slide, please. Yeah, as I said, we have been running these programs for a very long time. And so we have identified a couple of things that are really important to basically train strong biostatisticians. And obviously, classwork and the content that we're teaching is one very important aspect. But we've made the experience that a lot of things that are important is also simply how students are able to interact with each other and are able to learn from each other, and what kind of support they have available. And so we're trying to create sort of an overall set of supports that are available, both in the way of advising and student services. There's computing support. So if you're, for example, for a project, trying to develop an R package and you're stuck, there's a support person that can help you with that. We're working very hard to maintain a good social culture between the students in the department. And for that, we have several social events every year that sort of are supposed to help us or hopefully help us to create a good experience. But you should actually ask the students how well we're doing with that. That is our goal. Next slide, please. Here you can see some of the events that we have every year. We have a picnic for incoming students. There's a cornhole competition. I'm still not American enough to really understand that, but I'm sure it's important. We have ice skating outings, movie nights. We have a celebration for Halloween. The most important one is actually missing on here. We have an amazing Christmas celebration every year where the whole department comes together, students and faculty and staff, and everybody gets to share in what I think is always a really nice thing. But there are very many, this is mostly focused on the student-centric events. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I already pointed this out earlier. Ann Arbor is a very nice small town to live in. It comes up in many, many different lists as a nice place to be. It is, much of it is walkable. I've slightly am famous for the fact that I'm traveling pretty much only by bicycle in Ann Arbor. So you don't necessarily, you can get around very easily. It's a safe town. There's a decent amount of stuff happening. So it's a pretty nice place to live. Next slide. And Michigan, as it has a very large undergraduate population, there's a lot of things for students to do. There are right outside, which we're also not saying here, but we should be saying, right outside of our building, they are just now finishing a kick-ass brand new sports facility, which by the time you come will be ready to accept students. I don't know yet how cool it's going to be, but from the outside, it looks very cool. This is sort of just part of it, right? Large undergrad campuses just have a very large range of offerings. And no matter what your pastime is, you will find a group of people to do it with so that you have a good chance of developing new friendships and some work-life balance. Okay, and that was all from the perspective of an old person. So you're going to hear the same thing now from the students, or hopefully the same thing.
Megan.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it's me at first. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Kern, and along with Elise, we're going to be talking a little bit about what it's like to be here as a UM student in biostatistics. Yeah, feel free to move to the next slide. Okay. So I am in my second year in the master's program here in biostatistics. I am from Fly Creek, New York, and I came to Michigan Biostatistics after doing my undergraduate degree at McGill University in Montreal. So I did my bachelor's in cognitive neuroscience and minored in Hispanic studies. And after my undergrad, I worked for a few years as a data analyst with the Center for Biostatistics with the Bassett Research Institute. And that was a big part of why I came back for my master's. I didn't really understand the tools that I was employing, and so decided to come back to develop my theoretical background. Okay, next slide. As for my department involvement, I spent my summer working with Dr. Matt Zawistowski on a program called Biostart, which is a self-assessment and refresher training program for incoming students. So if you're coming into the program and feel a little bit rusty on your skills in calculus, linear algebra, or probability, we're hoping that this is a program that can help you review some of those skills and feel a little bit more confident coming into your first year courses. I am also, along with Elise, a member of the peer mentoring committee, and I currently work for the psychology department, helping to teach research methods in cognitive neuroscience. As for my career goals, I'm interested in pursuing a PhD in biostatistics and eventually I think I'd like to work for a nonprofit organization or for the government as a statistician.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elise. I'm a PhD student in the Biostats program. I'm going into this is the beginning of my third year. I guess not quite beginning, we're already in October. But I came straight from undergrad, so I didn't have a master's when I joined, and I just got my master's this May. Fun fact about me, I am from Trinidad and Tobago. I lived there most of my life. It's a really, really, really tiny twin island state at the bottom of the Caribbean island chain. And I got to Michigan Biostat, as I mentioned, from undergrad at Purdue University. I double majored in data science and applied statistics. I had minors in math and in Spanish. And how I'm involved in the department right now, along with Megan, I'm on the peer mentoring committee. We do a lot of fun stuff, including talking to prospective and admitted students, but also organizing peer mentors for everyone so that when you join the program, you have someone you can direct your questions to who has been in your shoes only a couple of years before. I'm also on the StatCom leadership team. StatCom, or Statistics in the Community, is a wonderful organization that is housed in our department. We partner with nonprofits who need statistical help. So that way we get to work with real data, and then they get to have some grad students help them out in statistical analyses that they might not have had the resources to do without our organization. And I also work with Dr. Kelly Kidwell. I'm a graduate student research assistant with her, and I'm doing my dissertation with her as well, co-advised by Tom Braun. And I'm not too sure where exactly my career is going to take me. I'm currently interested in academia, but we'll see. But I know for sure I want to work on clinical trial design, and right now I'm focused on chronic and rare diseases. So we will open it up for some Q&A from Megan and I. We're happy to answer questions about student life. I see a hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, thank you very much, Elise, and thank you very, very much to Megan. And I just have a question for both of you. So, what experiences in your undergraduate years do you think helped you to find this amazing University of Michigan program? And thank you for your introduction. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I can kick us off. So the experience that led me to Biostat was that I had worked in a psychology lab as an undergrad. I was basically just doing data cleaning and some pretty standard coding, but I got to sit in on the meetings with the biostatistician and hear how they took our questions from our collaborators who are psychologists and figured out what exactly they needed to do to get that answer from the data, which I thought was really cool. And so I was interested in biostat. I applied to a lot of different places, but I knew Michigan was the fit for me because I think the department is just so community oriented. The professors are so approachable and supportive. And I was really interested in clinical trial design for rare diseases. And Dr. Kelly Kidwell is just an expert and very prolific in that area.
I see. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. I appreciate it, at least. Thank you.
Yeah.
Of course.
And my journey was actually pretty similar. I had done my honors thesis in a neuroscience lab, and spending my time in the wet lab made me realize that the part of science that I enjoyed the most was when I was able to work with data. And I thought that everyone felt that way. I thought that getting to the analysis was the best part of any research project. And then I realized that was something a little bit different from most people, and that kind of led me into pursuing biostatistics. And the biggest thing that drew me to Michigan was probably the size of the department, I would say. Coming from a non-statistical background, I felt like I wasn't sure exactly where I fit in biostatistical research. So knowing that there were a lot of options for me here was what drew me to the department, as well as the very strong community among the students as well as from the professors.
We have some questions in the chat, and then we have 3 raised hands. Maybe we can just address the chat really quickly, if that's all right. If one of you could just answer this question. What was the most shocking thing about moving to Ann Arbor?
Oh, that's a
Elise?
good question. I
What do you-
think for me, I mean, I had been in Indiana for a couple years before, so I was a little bit used to it, but the cold weather is really something. And I think that was probably the most shocking thing.
Coming from the Caribbean too.
Yeah, absolutely. But the snow is beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
Okay.
For me, nothing could really scare me in terms of the cold after living in Montreal. But it was very surprising to me to see how the whole town shuts down for a game day. That was really cool for me to see.
And we have another question. What undergraduate courses were most helpful to both of you in starting your graduate degrees?
I would say for me, probably the calculus series. I think for the master's program, Calc 1 through 3 is required. And I think paying special attention to those courses will really help you as you begin your master's in the PhD program.
Yeah, and I'll tag on, for a PhD student, you have to take real analysis. And that was something I had done in undergrad, and I was glad because then that got waived, and I was able to progress in the biostat courses a little bit faster. It's not required, so you don't have to do it. But I found that helpful.
What was the process like of exploring different research focuses within the program, and how did you go about finding mentors to support this?
I think for me, a natural pathway was through my courses. I find that professors are very open to chatting with students enrolled in their courses if you find anything particularly interesting, or if more generally you just want to talk through the work that your professors do. I find that everyone is very open, even if you cold email someone in the department, to talking through what their research interests are and what your interests are as well moving forward.
Yeah,
We have-
I totally agree. And sorry, Nicole, I know you're
No,
probably
you're good. Please.
I just want to plug that we also have a really cool seminar series that happens. And so we have different speakers come in almost every week and talk about their research. And that's open to all students. So that's a great way to be exposed to research that's happening outside of the department as well.
We have lots of questions, but the person that's named iPhone, I'm not sure. Your hand is raised if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello, how are you people doing?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please.
Sorry,
state your question.
I thought my name is appearing. I'm Solomon. Sorry
No
for
worries.
that.
No worries.
Okay, I'm presently a student here in the US. I'm doing my master's in mathematics.
Okay.
But I did an undergrad in my undergraduate. I studied mathematics, statistics, education. So I really want to transition into biostatistics. So I'm actually asking that in transitioning from mathematics to biostatistics, are there prospects for me? And because I've gone through online, because this particular virtual information was sent to me by my departmental chair. So I decided to register and then attend. Because though I'm graduating next year fall, but I'm really interested in the PhD. So I'm kind of asking, what are the prospects for me? Is there any encouragement that we actually get? Because I really want to, inquisitive from transitioning from mathematics to biostatistics. Though even in my research in master's level, I am kind of doing a research in statistics. So I actually want to know, and with your experience. Please, can you give me a more guideline? I'll really be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. So Elise, I don't know if that's a student question.
Yeah, I will say, I think the transition from math to biostat shouldn't be too difficult. Megan, let me know if you agree.
Yeah, I would
I know
agree.
there are people who come with very little math background from like biology or other sciences, and I think they do quite well. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think having more preparation in math is never something that'll hurt you in a biostatistics program. Yeah.
And we'll talk, Sebastian and Mashumi will talk more about the path to the biostat degree and different undergraduate and graduate majors degrees that we've seen come to our program. We have lots of questions. I was thinking we could transition to the faculty portion and then roll back to the Q&A. We have lots of time built in at the end of the program for questions. So we will save your questions and come back to them. I think next up is Kevin. Mashumi, if you want to advance the slide. Okay. It looks like we had a little technical difficulty. Let me just share my screen. Okay. And slideshow. Okay. I don't. Okay. So, sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I guess who is the first? I'm the second.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's
No problem.
Okay, Hui, sorry about that.
No worries. Hello, everyone. My name is Hui Jiang. I'm a professor of biostatistics. I joined the department in 2011, so I've been here 14 years. And my research focuses on computational statistics, statistical genomics, and bioinformatics. And here is a list of some recent projects I've been working on, some asymmetric data integration, some cancer biomarker, and also some computational methods for resampling-based hypothesis testing and the penalized model for variable selection. And then please move on to the next one. Next slide.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Here is the some course I taught last year and this year. Biostat 600 was a introduction to biostatistics courses, which run half a semester in the first fall, and which was designed to basically prepare students for other biostat courses, because we have students from all different backgrounds. Some of them, even though they have taken calculus and linear algebra, but they haven't been using them in the past couple years. So so this course will help them sort of review those materials and then set up the path to take other courses. And then Biostat 612 was a new course designed a couple years ago. It's a sister course. Another one is Biostat 611 in the fall, so 612 is in the winter. These two courses talk about, basically extra curriculum skills. So anything you don't learn in like technical courses here, we teach, for example, how to do a job interview, how to write your resume, how to network, how to present in conferences, how to write emails, those kind of stuff. It's quite popular. And then Biostat 625 is a core course for the health data science program, but it's also an elective for the Biostat program. So all of the courses are like that, either core course for one program, but elective for the other. So this is the intermediate to advanced programming course, which talk about advanced programming concepts like how do you do profiling, how do you write an R package, how do you use GitHub, how do you do cloud computing, those kind of stuff. And then besides teaching, all of us as faculty members, we do a lot of advising. For example, when you join as a new student, you will be assign a academic advisor, which you can, the person you can go to for any advice, for example, enrolling in courses or, planning your, curriculum, those kind of stuff, or any question you might have. And then besides that, we also, serve as a research advisor for mostly PhD, but sometimes also master students we take on for research. And besides all of those, I have also been serving on the HDS committee, overseeing that program, being established and growing in the past few years. So, I know we're running short on time. Maybe I can take questions, afterwards. Thanks. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin He. I'm associate professor in the department. I came to Ann Arbor and joined the department in 2006, but I studied as a master's student. So 20 years ago, I was also a prospective student. Time flies. In 2014, I became a faculty, in this department. By the way, my colleagues know my story. My hometown is in northeast of China, in the winter, very cold. And before I came to Ann Arbor, I spent 4 years in Canada. Canada, the winter, endless of snow. So to me, the winter of Ann Arbor is not cold, it's cool. So my research centers around survival analysis, healthcare provider profiling, machine learning, including transfer learning, federated learning, and data integration, optimization with large-scale biomedical database. Next slide, please. In the last several years, I taught several courses offered to both PhD and master students, including Biostatistics 51 is for generalized linear models, including linear models, logical regression, and Poisson models as special cases. I also taught Biostatistics 53 is for longitudinal data analysis or the so-called clustered data analysis. Usually regression assume all the observations are independent, but for longitudinal data set, we have repeated measurement from the same individual. So therefore, those observations are correlated, violate the independence assumption. That's why we need a special technique for that. I also taught an interesting class, Biostatistics 99, analysis of biostatistical investigations. We assign, 3 or 4 real data projects to students. You have the opportunity, to meet with clinical investigators and apply what you learned from other biostatic class to real data problems. I support students through PhD and GSRA advising. I'm also serving as the associate director for a center we call the KEC, the Kidney Epidemiology and Cost Center. We work with the so-called Center of Medicare and Medicaid. It's a government agency. We evaluate all the healthcare providers, including facilities and transplant centers. Just like the 5-star for the hotels, we assign 5 stars, to those providers. Yeah, that's all. We are happy to answer any question.
I'm back. Sorry, we lost power suddenly. So
No worries. I think that there are a lot of questions, and so maybe we'll just hang on to the questions until after Sebastian and Mashumi go through the admissions slides, if that's all right.
Yep.
okay, so Nicole, do you want me to share again?
Yeah, I can advance the slides.
You can do
yes.
this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the degrees offered and kind of taking the next step. As I mentioned, we have the Master of Science in Biostatistics, Master of Science in Health Data Science. We also have an accelerated program. And then Sebastian is going to talk about the Biostat PhD program. Next slide, please. So the Master of Science programs in Biostatistics or Health Data Science, this is like a 2-year program, but essentially without the summer months, like a 20-month program, 48 credit hours. Of these 48 credit hours, 36 or more has to be in biostatistics, and 3 to 7 credit hours in epidemiology. You can also take elective courses in biostatistics, computational methods, big data, or a minor. And typically our students do minor in public health, epi, genetics, and sometimes from, let's say, health management policy. Next slide, please. So here's kind of comparing between our biostatistics and our health data science master's program. There is a lot of overlap between these two programs, but the MS in biostatistics is it's a rigorous, comprehensive, in-depth training in biostatistics, and typically there's deeper dive into advanced statistical models. For example, longitudinal data analysis, survival analysis, spatial statistics, Bayesian inference. These are set of electives. I mean, for our biostat master students, typically, I mean, the longitudinal data analysis, which is Biostat 653, is required for them. But they also, in addition, take these usual sort of like electives that form the core of the Biostat MS program. Students who do well in our Biostats MS program are encouraged to apply to PhD program. Health data science, in contrast, it requires a strong biostatistics foundation, but the emphasis is on computation and data analysis for large, medical and public health data. So the sort of although there's a lot of overlap in the coursework, but the focus in the health data science program is more on the computational side of things. And typically, students who are in this program, the MS in health data science will be their final degree, although there have been students who kind of have come into our PhD program from health data science masters. Next slide, please. So what is the Accelerated Master in Science in Biostatistics? This is a relatively new program in our department, and it is only offered for University of Michigan students in math and statistics programs. So the way it works is it's a 3+1+1 program. The first 3 years in the undergraduate program are like the typical freshman to junior years, where students are taking traditional math stat courses. Year 4, which is the senior year in the undergraduate program, during this year, they start also taking master's level courses in our department. So this is kind of the sort of the year that's sandwiched between their typical true undergraduate years and the 5th year, which is a full-time graduate student, being a full-time graduate student in our department, in the Department of Biostatistics. It is accelerated because, in 5 years, you basically get your undergraduate and your master's in biostatistics degrees. Next slide, please. Application to all MS programs are done through an online application form. You pay a non-refundable application fee. This is waived for domestic students. What are the components of the online application? So you need 3 letters of recommendation. And typically, again, I'm sure there will be questions in the chat later on, like students ask, like, who should we get recommendation letters from? So typically, these should be people who can comment on your academic ability. It could be your sort of professor in certain classes. If you have had some summer research experience or working in a job that requires quantitative skills. It could be your supervisor, your mentor, but somebody who can comment on your academic and quantitative skills. So that's what, and somebody who knows you fairly well. So 3 letters, couple like very important components of the application, statement of purpose and a personal statement. Again, these two are two different documents. Please, so the personal statement is who you are, and how did you sort of your trajectory, your journey into developing a passion for biostatistics. And the statement of purpose is more about like more focused, like why biostatistics, why Michigan? If you came here, what are the areas you might want to work on? Who do you think you would like to work with? So there's a distinction between these two statements, and we take both of these very, very seriously. There has to be a motivation for biostatistics, like, simply saying that, I just found biostatistics to be a path in my dream wouldn't necessarily fly. I mean, there has to be a strong motivation for your choice of the field. Official transcript for students whose first language is not English, international students, and who did not earn a degree from an English-speaking institution, we require TOEFL or IELTS scores. We do not review GRE scores, so you don't need to take GRE or submit GRE scores for our application. Next slide, please. Prereqs for the master's program, very important. Both Ellis and Megan touched on these. So we require 3 semesters of calculus, including multivariable calculus. So typically Calc 1 to 3. In some Asian countries, the curriculum for Calc 1 to 3 might be sort of covered in 2 courses, and I think that's quite typical in China. So if you are in doubt, please write to us, send us your syllabus. But we are very, very sort of like the 3 semesters of calculus, as you heard from both Ellis and Megan, are strong sort of prereqs that will help you be successful in our program. A course in linear algebra is also a prereq in our program, and then an introductory course in statistics or biostatistics that covers some, basic descriptive statistics, some probability, some distributions is what is required. There could be other useful courses that you might want to sort of mention in your statement. And I believe Ellis said that for PhD students, Sebastian is going to talk about that, advanced calculus, real analysis. But even for your master's application, if you have had taken other math and statistics courses or programming courses, then those are useful things to list. Next slide, please. Where do our students come from? Majority of our students in the MS in biostatistics program come from quantitative fields, statistics, mathematics, applied math, data science. But as you can see, we also have students from the biological sciences, biology, health science, neuroscience, ecology. So we kind of have students from diverse backgrounds, and the same is true. Next slide, please. Same is true for our health data science program. So again, a large body of students come from the quantitative fields, but as you can see here, our data science students, in addition to the quantitative fields of math, stats, applied math, also come from some biological fields, and also like some financial mathematics, economics, informatics. So as you can see, there's a diverse background that's represented in our student body in the master's program in both biostatistics and health data science. Next slide, please. I believe that's Sebastian.
Sebastian, you're muted.
Sorry, I was busy answering emails in the chat as much as I could. So basically for the PhD, the PhD is basically an extension of the master's. So if you start from the undergraduate, the PhD is going to take you something on the order of 5 to 6 years. But the first 2 years are going to be very, very similar to our master's. In fact, pretty much everybody who starts from the undergrad after 2 years has a master's and then moves on. So for that reason, we also accept a lot of people out of master's programs, primarily out of our own master's program. When you come in with a master's, it typically takes 3 to 4 years. The required coursework for the PhD is the master's coursework plus 1 more year of courses. One requirement is advanced calculus. That's a prerequisite for a lot of the PhD level courses. So you typically want to take that during the master's, or really, if you're already thinking about a PhD, you really want to knock that out before you come here. Another requirement for the PhD is statistical inferences, a stochastic processes course, and a total of 9 biostatistical electives. In order to proceed into the PhD, you need to take the qualifying exam. That qualifying exam is available after 2 years. So our internal master students who move on to the PhD, or students who start from the bachelor, take the qualifying exam after 2 years for the first time. You get 2 shots at the qualifying exam. And then you have to have a dissertation at the end of it, obviously. Next slide, please. In order to apply, you need to have an application form. There's a non-refundable application fee, which is waived for domestic students. As Musumi said, you need 3 letters of recommendation. One of the things that I think makes our overall admission process pretty holistic is that every application gets looked at by at least 2 people, typically 3 people. And each one of these people has their own preference. So for example, Musumi told you how important the statement of purpose and personal statement are. I think they are still important, but they would not be high. They would probably 3rd on my list of what's important. For me, the letters are much more important. And as Musumi said, I would work very carefully on getting good letter writers that can actually tell us what we need to know, which means that can give us as much information as possible that you're going to succeed in a difficult quantitative program. Transcripts and TOEFL same as for the masters. And as for the masters, we do not review the GRE scores. Next slide, please. Right. In order to be admitted to the PhD, as I said, quite a few of our applicants come from a master's. We also look at strong candidates with just a bachelor's degree. But remember, fundamentally, what we're trying to do when we try to admit you is we're trying to predict, based on all the data that we're getting, that you're going to be successful in our PhD program, that you're going to not waste potentially many years of your life and afterwards have something that allows you to build a life on. Which means that if you only have a bachelor's degree, you need very strong evidence for us to make that prediction. While if you come with a master's degree, it is easier for us to make a prediction like that. So slightly weaker evidence is potentially good enough. In order to succeed, you need 3 semesters of calculus. And I really, really want to emphasize this is not a hoop. The most common failure mode for students is that they have half-assed multivariable calculus or haven't taken it at all carefully, and then they don't know what happens even in our starting classes. So please, please, please take the requirement seriously. If multivariable calculus was very, very challenging for you, this may not be the best program for you, right? Even if you got an A, right? If you're saying I got an A, but I have no idea how I got it, and the teacher gave everybody an A, then it looks great on the application, but this might still not be the right program for you. Similarly, you need linear algebra, and you need to have some starting point for statistics and biostatistics. What we sometimes do with a PhD is that we say, hey, the student looks like they really have promise. They could be very, very good, but we don't know. We cannot promise them funding for 5 years. But we can admit them to our masters. They're easily good admits to our masters, and in 2 years, we will know. And we can then admit them to the PhD. So on your application for the PhD is going to be a checkbox, and that says wants to be considered for the masters. And if you check that box, and we will not admit you to the PhD. There's a pretty good chance we will instead hand the file to Musumi, and typically Musumi then says, "Oh yeah, no, that's an easy admit to the masters." Next slide, please. If you're admitted after the masters, we want the masters from the institution that you come from to be comparable with our masters. There's particularly a problem if you're in an institution that does 1 year biostatistics masters. Those do not have the same level of training as 2 years, because you'll not be surprised to learn that 2 is more than 1. So we will look not only at your at that you have the degree, but also what are the courses that you have taken. And similarly, if you come post-masters, we will typically want to see that you have taken real analysis. Next slide, please. Okay, who do we get in applicants in biostatistics? Typically, they come from statistics, math for biostatistics. Big surprise, right? These are the courses. These are the undergraduates and degrees that give us a good predictive ability of your ability to do this. But they come from other areas too. Actually, the very first year that I started in Michigan, I had one of my first academic advisees was a student who entered our program in the master's from kinesiology. She did a master's in biostatistics with an undergrad in kinesiology. She moved on to the PhD. She did a rocking PhD, and she is now out in the world, changing the world as a PhD biostatistician. So as long as you think you can handle the math, don't let the words on this slide too much discourage you from applying. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a couple of things to think about for your application. As I said, the letter writers are really important. We want them to help us predict that you will succeed. So if they can write about your math, about your stats, about your computing, about your ability to research, that is all really useful. If your dad happens to know your state senator, that is not useful. Your state senator will not impress us. That happened. Don't smile. That happened. Right? Because they can tell us anything that really makes it more likely that this is not a waste of time. You want to make sure that they can write a strong informative letter, and it is absolutely fair for you to go to your letter writers and say, do you think you can write me a strong, detailed letter? You don't get to ask, what are you going to write? But you can absolutely write, is this a strong, detailed letter? And if they say no, then you say thank you, and you go to somebody else, right? Similarly, if you know you want somebody to write you a letter, and you, for example, now a junior or a sophomore, maintain contact with that person, right? If you're in a junior class and or actually in a sophomore class, and you know in a year I want that person to write me a letter, keep in contact with them. Keep track of your letter writers, maintain them. That is a really useful thing to do, because the more they know about you, the more they like you, the stronger the letter is going to be. write your statements clearly and well. Don't let AI write the statement for you, because AI is not you. We're not considering AI as our new PhD student. We're considering you. But of course, there's nothing wrong if you have written it to make AI go through and make sure that no grammar or spelling mistakes in there, right? But obviously, for that, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you're stuck on how exactly do I phrase this, you can ask AI, I want to talk about this part of my life. Give me 3 different possible phrasings, and then pick the one you like best. All of that is totally fine, but it should be you. We were interested about you, not about some random nonsense. As Musumi said, you want to make clear why you're interested in biostatistics and why you're interested in Michigan, right? Something generic is typically not advisable. You want to tell us about yourself, who you are, where you want to go, why you're interested in something. One thing that's always a little bit tricky is talking about blemishes, right? If you're, let's say, your undergrad degree in your undergrad grades in one semester are horrible because you had a skiing accident and you could barely walk to school and couldn't study, write that, right? We're going to notice, hey, AAA, CCD, AAAAA. By ourselves, we're probably already thinking, hey, that semester something went wrong. But if you can actually explain it to us, all the better, right? Then we know, let's ignore that semester and go by everything else to understand who that person is. Next slide, please.
May I add a couple comments here?
Sure.
On that previous slide. So one related to the letters. As Sebastian mentioned, that we put a lot of emphasis on the letters. Make sure you get objective letters. Sometimes we get letters that simply say, oh, this person is a nice person and hardworking, good character. That's kind of useless for us.
Almost. Yeah.
Again, hardworking is good information, but beyond that, like, you want specific objective information. And getting letter from a sports coach, and if they're commenting that this person is sort of responsible, delivers timely, again, those are good things to be noted, but doesn't give us much useful information. We want people to comment on your skills, like your academic skills, your sort of work ethics, your sort of creativity, if you have been involved either in sort of classwork, project work, some research, etc. So that's something like, it's very important to get letters from people who objectively comment.
So to modify this a little bit, if you are on a college team where that requires you ridiculous amount of time management, right? There have been people on the admissions committee that put really, really high value on that, right? If you're on your college football team that requires you to train whatever, 30 hours a week, and you still get straight A's in advanced math courses, that is incredibly impressive. And in that case, if among other things, there's a coach describing how you managed to pull off that super impressive feat, that will certainly not hurt, right? But if it's the coach of your hobby team, that obviously doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah. So, Sebastian, you want to talk about the funding sources?
So,
and I can add
one of the key differences between the PhD and the master's is that our PhD students are all funded. So if we admit you to the PhD, what we will offer you is, if you're coming from the undergraduate, what we'll promise you, not offer, is 5 years of funding. And that funding is going to cover both your tuition and a stipend that allows you to live pretty nicely, actually. In order for you to receive that money, though, there will be a job attached. Those jobs are typically, or are expected to take you on the order of 20 hours every week. on top of what you're doing for school, right? And those in our department, those are either GSRA jobs, which are basically research assistants, and they support research projects, or graduate student instructors, which basically do teaching for courses. We do have a couple of slots of spots that are training programs. So that's either the genome science training program or the cancer biostatistics training program. If you happen to be funded of those, then there would be no work requirement, but you're typically required to take additional courses. For example, if you take the genome science training courses, you're expected to take the genetics sequence that human genetics students take, which is substantially more involved than what our other students who are working in genetics typically do. For the master's program, we have tuition awards. Whether 16 is the right number depends from year to year, and those tuition awards can cover anything between 25% and 100% of those tuition. Those awards do not cover any living expenses.
And those awards are only for domestic applicants, the tuition awards. In the master's program, getting full funding as GSRA or GSI is pretty rare in the kind of current climate, probably approaching sort of. So, I mean, last year we did not give any full funding awards to master students, but several of our master students come with tuition awards anywhere. I mean, theoretically 25%, but we haven't been giving 25%. We have mostly been giving full-time or half-time tuition awards. These are awarded directly to the students.
Next slide, please. So as I said, we have two training programs. The first one is the genome science training program. That is a training program that sits at the interface between genetics, statistics, and computation. It is one of the oldest programs of a type that is in its 30th year now. It supports 13 doctoral students, but not only in our department. It supports students across the university. It includes 55 faculty, 55 trained faculty across 11 departments. 14 of those on biostatistics. Mike Benke is the PI of this program. The ideal background for that is that you have a math stats major and a biology minor, or vice versa, right? As long as you have the prerequisites, somebody who majored in biology and has a minor in math is very exciting for this program. The program has many, many advantages, has been around for a long time, so we have fine-tuned it. Often students who are supported by this program start a month early just so that they can get their research going before the semester starts. There's a seminar series, a journal club, there's an orientation, annual retreat, there's funding to attend meetings, and there's extensive mentoring as well as support for tutoring. Next slide. The other training grant is the cancer. The cancer biostatistics training program. That is, on the other hand, a program that's only within our department that supports 5 PhD or PhD-bound students. Again, 12 faculty are involved, and our chair Vera, Kelly Kidwell, and Jeremy Taylor are the PIs. Again, there's an expanded coursework and a seminar. It has very strong relationship with the cancer center. The important thing about training programs is training programs are money by the NIH to fund domestic students. So both of these training programs are only available to domestic students. That's not our choice. That's how we get the money. Next slide. Okay, so here's an overview of the timeline. The deadline for an application is December 1st. So 1.5 months roughly. Mid-February is when we typically make our admissions and funding decisions. Then on March 15th, we have an admitted student day where we invite all the students that have been admitted to come to Michigan and get an understanding of what the faculty is like, what their fellow students would be like. And then April 15th is a commitment deadline. That's an agreement between all the American schools that before April 15th, nobody is supposed to force you to make a decision whether you accept their offer or not. Things are a little bit cowboy out there right now, but if somebody asks you to make a decision before April 15th, they are breaking this commitment. But by April 15th, we will ask you to make a decision. If not, we might retract offers and give them to other people. After that, we will try to match you with faculty that you want to work with and figure out how to fund you. And then next August, you would start in Michigan. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is all we got. I think we here you have one of our graduation parties. I think a year ago, if I see this correctly.
Yeah,
we have a little bit of time for questions.
Yes, and I've pasted several questions into the slides following this, so
Okay, so we got a couple of questions in ahead, so maybe we're going to go through those first. I unfortunately have a hard stop at 8:30, so I'm not only going to be around for another 10 minutes.
Okay, maybe we can see questions that. So what do you look for in a successful PhD application, Sebastian?
So I think I've given you most of the things that I look forward to. For the PhD application, our requirements are really, for the master's, I think the requirements is what you need in math. For a PhD, they're kind of the minimum, and I would typically expect more. Personally, what I look for quite a bit is real analysis and the grade in real analysis, because in my experience, real analysis is taught at a pretty similar level throughout the US. So the grade is pretty reliably a measure of what you can do mathematically. What is very useful is some research experience, but that may depend on where you come from. If you're a graduate from a smaller liberal arts college, there might not have been much opportunity for research. But of course, you're doing a PhD in order to do research, and past is a decent predictor for the future. Okay, next one. So a master's in public health with a biostatistics requirement will not count as a master's for our program. We can certainly look at the coursework, but it would be extremely surprising to me if you cover math at the same depth as our master's biostatistics program. And so very likely with this program, you will just start in the master's program like anybody else, like anybody coming from undergraduate.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to add to this on this question. So remember the Calc 1, 2, 3 and the linear algebra. Most likely you will not get in your public health program, you will not get the same kind of, as Sebastian said, depth and rigor that our program requires.
Okay, so neuroscience and genetics. So if you were involved in the genome science training program, that program is by design extremely multidisciplinary. You're actually expected to have advisors from multiple departments. Unfortunately, that does not apply to international students. All in all, Michigan is an extremely multidisciplinary place. So if you're interested in neuroscience and genetics, there's a good chance that you can recruit yourself a committee that covers some of that interest, and you can find a way to study at least basically going in that direction. The next question is financial aid. I think so financial aid as opposed to, yeah, Musumi's right. I would absolutely state that in your SOP. Financial aid is something we're doing relatively limited. We're trying to get scholarships for our students, mostly through Rackham, but that's not financial aid really in that sense. Yeah.
Sebastian, we have a question about research opportunities, and I think this is one that keeps popping up.
Yep.
So what does it look like trying to find a research opportunity, and how do faculty recruit students, and how can students find these opportunities?
So, I mean, very first thing is ask. If you already come to Michigan and know that you want to work with somebody, talk with that faculty early. Try to figure out if they have small things that they would be interested in working on with you. If this looks like, then take that really seriously, right? Because if faculty start talking with you, they might be interested in working with you and might be able to support you with an hourly job that we've talked about quite a bit on the comments. And that would be a research opportunity for master students. My strong advice there is take that very seriously, because right, they're putting in their own money in order to support you. And so this is often how these positions develop. Sometimes there's also an opportunity for you to just do a reading group or a reading class with a faculty who's in an area that you're really interested in. So you're saying, I want to read some papers with you. You can talk to faculty. I've certainly done that with students who were excited about certain areas they wanted to work in, and we read papers together. 2 years ago, we did, for example, one on AI and population genetics. So there's a whole range of opportunities, which depends on exactly what you mean by research and exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, and in addition to the temp hourly positions that faculty sort of offer, and they could be short term during summer, or they could be kind of in the middle of the semester. There are also quote unquote like internships or summer projects that are offered through other centers or institutes within Michigan. Again, so it's good to sort of do the networking, to talk to faculty who might be able to sort of point you to those directions. For example, the Institute for Healthcare Policy and Innovation, IHPI, has very a well-defined summer program. A lot of our students have internship opportunities through that program. There are sort of positions within the nursing school, and GSI positions also pop up close to the beginning of term. So again,
yeah,
networking.
Yes. AP classes, I mean, AP is probably going to be just Calc 1. And if you have AP Calc 1 and then Calc 2 and 3, or you've taken in college, that's totally fine.
So what is the recommended length for the statement of purpose? I think I answered that in the chat. Typically, I have seen anywhere between 2 to 3.5 pages. There is kind of not like a
Please not 3.5 pages.
Yeah, nothing like a so it's we don't want to kind of have a long winding unnecessary
2 pages.
SOP. It has to be sort of to the point. Again, motivation. Why Biostat? Why Michigan? But like I said, I have seen anywhere between 2 to 3.5 pages.
Just Musumi and I are going to read 400 to 500 of these. So
600 plus for the masters.
Okay. I'm going to read 400 to 500 of these, so please not 3.5 pages. Procedure.
The personal, sorry, Sebastian, the personal statement should definitely be shorter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Procedure and chance to get funding and research assistantship, teaching assistantships. So generally, our research assistant, teaching assistantships are organized centrally. So we will make you an offer for fund with or without funding. If we do not offer you funding with your letter, it is theoretically possible that, for example, funding in your second year of the master's may be available, but that's quite rare. And honestly, with the present political and funding situation, it would surprise me if that happened anytime soon. As Musumi said, it is not super rare for students to find teaching assistant positions outside of our department, and that's not under our control. I think you see Megan nod when I'm saying that, and if you want to know more about this, you might want to reach out to her, how she did it. Is there another slide of questions? Yes.
Would you,
You pick your PhD advisor with consent of the PhD advisor, obviously. But as you are here for typically your first year of the PhD, you identify an area that you want to work in and who you want to work with. And assuming the person also wants to work with you, this is how the situation develops. There is no super hard and fast rule. Often, if you do have funding as a GSRA, it's often your first possible choice is the person who funds your GSRA, simply because there's synergies between the two work streams that you'll have to deal with as a PhD student, but that's not necessary. I've had many students that I've funded as GSRAs that did their PhD with other people and vice versa.
Yeah, and again,
there is no, so I'm just going to do these two questions and I'm going to log off because I really got to go, sorry. There is no formal research rotations. You can just, you can figure out, you know quite a bit about the advisors, both by talking to other students, and by observing them in class and by talking to them. If an advisor does not work out within the first couple of months, it is very easy to switch. And there's also no real rule that you have to have the same advisor for your entire PhD. I have right now 2 students who did 1 or 2 of their projects with me and 1 or 2 of their projects with another faculty in our department. And yes, the number of PhD positions is entirely limited by how many PhDs we can fund. We need to have the money to pay for our PhDs, so we can only admit people that we can pay for. And with that, I have to apologize, but I'm at a conference right now, and I have promised that I would meet other people, so I unfortunately have to leave. Hope to see you all.
Thanks so much, Sebastian.
thanks.
So I was answering a question in the chat about admissions to the MS program. I just wanted to clarify that what I've said is about the MS program, and generally our faculty review the applications, and if they think that they're able to, and Mashumi, you know more about this obviously than me, but in general, if a student looks like they're able to complete the program and they look like a strong candidate, they'll be admitted. We don't really have a quota. We don't set a percentage that we will admit. And because we have such a large faculty, we're able to do more admissions than some other programs. And our student to faculty ratio is still 6 to 1, 5.5 to 6 to 1.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. So again, the admissions committee, the master's admissions committee is a total of 8 faculty, and each application is reviewed by at least 2 faculty, 2 members in the committee before it comes to the chair. And what we are looking for is, with your credentials, and along with the letters and your statements, do we see enough evidence that you will be successful in our program and you have the credentials that will make you a strong admissible candidate? So there is no quota.
Right. I think we've addressed most of these questions. You can apply to the PhD program without a master's. So for the person who was asking about completing the master's in applied stat, if you were unable to finish that program and you were admitted to the PhD program here at Michigan, you could apply for the embedded master's within your PhD program if you matriculate here. And that way, then you would also have the master's along the way.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep people too long. I see that attendance is is dropping. So if there are other questions that we did not address, we'll try to formulate answers and send a follow-up email to you. And certainly, if you have further questions that you want to get addressed, please feel free to email me, and I'll just add my email address here to the chat. So I want to make sure if there were any pressing questions that we didn't address, that please do email me, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Nicole. And
Yes.
to everyone, please do reach out if you have additional questions. Again, we are delighted you are here, and we hope that we have been able to convince you that Michigan is the place and biostatistics is the field if you are someone who likes math and who likes to see impact on human health through your work.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.